Hey, this is Evan Longoria of your San Francisco Giants, and you're listening to TortureCast.
You're listening to a podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants. Let's go, Giants! With hosts Willie Dills, Chad King, Ben Lee, and Eric Nathanson. Dedicated to the greatest team in Major League Baseball, the San Francisco Giants. This is TortureCast.
It's Monday, August 13th, 2018, and this is episode 150 of the TortureCast, the podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants. And I know we just recorded 4 days ago, but it's nice to get back on our regular Monday rhythm here. And so I'm Chad King. Joining me, as always, from Georgia is Eric Nathanson. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, just because I'm still buzzing off that bond ceremony.
Yeah, that was some cool stuff. Why don't we just get into that first, just because it was cool. We were just talking pre-show about it. I personally could not watch it live because of my schedule, but I did record it and watched it later, some of it with my son, which was really cool to kind of point out a lot of the historic, Giants players that were there in the park. And, of course, just a review of Bonds himself, because my son is 8 years old and he has no idea who Barry Bonds is. He has an idea, but he didn't really know what he did. And so I was pointing all this stuff out as we're watching the video highlight package. And I was telling Eric at the top of the show or before the show that there were a lot of the historic home runs that he hit. I've been to several of them. And so I was like, I was there for that one. I was there for that one. I was there for that one. So it was really cool to kind of connect where he's watching what I think in his mind might be old-timey footage, silent film with the blinking. Because that's the... And you know what's so funny about it? Is that when you do watch those old clips, and I do call them old now because most of them are, 15 plus years old, except for the very last part of his career. It's amazing to see just the different clothing styles in the park, to see it called SBC or Pacific Bell, to see the days at Candlestick, to see the monochromatic boards before they had color digital HD jumbotrons. And just to see the evolution of technology and uniforms on the other players with high socks and tight pants and low cleats and all these things, right? Which at the time was the norm. And nowadays, you look back at that and you just go, wow, we have come so far. And it makes me think, like, in 20 years from now, are we going to look back at, the baggy pants and the pants over the cleat heels and the jumbotrons, which are HD now, It's like, are they going to have holographic displays in center field and all that? It's like, it's funny how as we evolve, you always think this is the current norm. This is the way. We can't evolve more than this. This is the coolest shit ever. And then 20 years later, you're like, man, that was some kinky ass shit that we wore and saw back then.
It still blows my mind seeing some of this like standard definition footage, and it's like, how did we even see the baseball back then? Like it looks so like. I don't want to say what's the word? Pixelated. It just it doesn't seem to have the same flow that it has nowadays. Yeah. And it's like, oh my God, we used to watch every game like this. That used to be normal. Like, and now if we don't get like 6 different camera angles and a slow motion replay of this and zeroing in, and especially with the 4K replay that they have set up at AT&T now, we're spoiled in this day and age. And like you said, what is it going to be in 20 years? Like, we're going to look back on Mike Trout things and be like, wow, you can barely see what he did there. And even though it's crystal clear to us now.
You got StatCast, exactly where, the rotation and spin rate and speed and exit velocity and distance and all these things instantly, which back then, we had, oh, dude, he hit that ball 500 feet. It was really 410, that kind of thing.
Well, like they showed, Bonds' farthest home run was 492 feet in Colorado. And it's like, come on, he had to have hit some balls farther than that. But they didn't have the same measuring technology and things like that back then. I thought the ceremony, it was long. It was. I didn't expect it to be that long, but
it was 90 minutes. It was about
and
half
the game
a ball
itself.
Game.
Yeah, the game itself that night took 2 hours and 18 minutes.
Was that it? Well, it was 4-0, so yeah, it was a pretty short game. But yeah, 2 hours and 18 minutes. So not much longer than the ceremony itself. But
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool. They brought a lot of people back. Obviously, you had your ex teammates being Will Clark and Rob Nen and Woody and Edie and Bobby Bonilla and those guys. You had your ex managers Jim Leland and Dusty Baker. Of course, Bochy was in attendance, and then you had your Hall of Famers that have already had their numbers retired, which was 5 of the living 10 members. Well, now they have 6. Of course, Bonds is one of the 6, but you had McCovey and Mays and Cepeda and Marichal and Perry there, which was really cool. His family, his 3 kids, his mom. It was a really, really cool moment. Before we get ahead of ourselves, but I thought one of the what? Why are you bringing this guy out? Was Eric Gagne. What the hell is that? That was just bizarre. The reason I say it is because it was one of the more epic at-bats, and I remember watching that one. Actually, I didn't watch it. I was actually listening to the radio on that particular at-bat, which was amazing. And to see the replay there at the park was nice. But I was like, really? They're bringing a Dodger back to speak? It was a little odd to me, that's all. It was fine, but it was just an odd choice.
Giants fans, bless them, they chanted "Beat LA" and they booed when Gagne was introduced. And I thought it was neat to get a little insight. Barry even touched on it in his speech, and Gagne talked about it, that when they were traveling in Japan, Barry kind of set him up for that at bat by saying, "You're the best, I'm the best. If we have a situation, let's do it." Yeah. And it was a 3-run game. There was nobody on base, so Gagne let it loose. And I have to agree with Gagne. That curveball on 0-2, that was a strike. But he didn't call it a strike, and Barry had his chance. I mean, Barry pulled, in that at-bat, he pulled a 101-mile-an-hour fastball foul into the cove. Yeah. And, that just totally exemplified how quick Barry's hands were and how good he was at getting his barrel to the ball. It was just unbelievable to think, that he did that. And then the home run went to center field. He didn't even pull that. So, in essence, the foul ball, he got a better swing on than the ball that he actually hit out of the yard. I thought it was cute and kitschy. It probably made the ceremony a little longer, but then again, they were at the point where who cares? I loved Bobby Bo. I thought Bonilla was funny when he came up. He totally called Barry out on being, Barry loves Barry, and we all know that. Yeah. And he thinks that he's God's gift to everything, and you can't blame the guy in certain respects. And it was funny because Bobby Bo even made a joke. It was tough to pick it up, but Bobby Bo made a joke about how the Mets are still paying him.
Yes, I noticed that. $1 million a year through 2025, I believe?
Something like that, yeah. And it was just funny to think that, he still credits the fact that he and Bonds played together for helping him make so much money. And it was nice to see Leland. I don't think it was a happenstance that the Pirates were the team in town when they decided to do this. I'm sure that the Giants looked at the schedule ahead of time, saw that it was mid-August. It's the perfect time of year. It's before kids go back to school. They knew they'd have a full ballpark. And I thought it was fitting that the Pirates were the team that was in the visitors' dugout. And they didn't show a lot of shots of it, but that those Pirates players were up there recording with their iPhones, watching from the top step and soaking it in, because to this generation of ball players, Barry Bonds is the GOAT. He is the guy that everybody tried to measure themselves up to be. I mean, who else? The guy has the walk and intentional walk record, and people are still in awe of that. There was that little video that they put out, and they were like, 800 and something intentional walks. Man, that's a lot of walks. It was and it was nice to see Tom. It was funny. Tom Brady. I don't know if you noticed when he came on the screen. Apparently in the stadium, they couldn't even hear what he said because they were booing so loudly.
Booing so loudly. Oh yeah, I mean. Yeah, I could hear it through the TV, of course, because they had it isolated with some of the crowd noise, but they had it pumped up. I heard that, too, that they couldn't even hear what Brady had to say. But, growing up as a Giants fan and going to the same high school as Barry, there's a huge connection there, clearly. But, 49er fans in the stands obviously booing him, so that was understandable.
I mean, unless you're a Patriots fan, nobody likes Tom.
No.
But, it was neat. You mentioned that – the old guys were there, and none of them except Willie talked, and that made sense. My other, before we reround to Willie, Dusty Baker, I have to say, I now kind of feel bad that Dusty never got his title, because he was in the booth with the guys on Thursday night for a full inning, and then listening to him to talk Saturday. Dusty is just one of the nicest, most genuine guys, and I can absolutely see why players loved playing for him. Yeah. And him telling the story about how all the guys wanted, I don't remember Barry's mom's name at the moment, but Pat. All the guys wanted Pat, but that was Bobby's girl.
That was hilarious. Oh my God, when he mentioned that.
It just humanized everything. Like, Barry's always been this, character, and the whole night humanized him. And even his speech, he seemed humble. He broke down when talking about his mother. He broke down when talking about his family and his father. And, it was really good to see him be humble. Granted, when he met with the reporters afterwards, he's like, yeah, the number being retired is good. He's like, but when I walk at AT&T, I know that I built this park. I know that, he puffed his chest in, and I get it. I totally do, because we said it on the last podcast. AT&T doesn't get built if it's not for Barry. And hearing Larry Baer talk about the phone call he made to Barry Bonds back in January of '93, and when he said to Barry, we would like you to come join our organization, and apparently the Yankees and Braves were also hot on Bonds' tail. And I'll bet you the Yankees offered more money, and it's possible the Braves did, but Barry wanted to come home. And I can't see any other fan base embracing him through everything that he went through on and off the field. I can't see any other fan base embracing him like we have, and we did. And I'm fine with that. That guy is an all-time great, and he is a hero to many. Mays was my dad's guy. Bonds was my guy.
Right.
He did his thing where he tapped his leg before he caught a fly ball. I tapped my leg before I caught a fly ball. There's just little things like that. Like, I'll never forget, I was playing in a championship game as a teenager, and the final out was a deep fly ball to me, and the manager, he was like, oh, crap. And my dad saw me tap my leg, and he goes, nope, Eric's got it, game over. Like, it's one of those things that you develop those habits from watching the players over the years, and you do them. You don't even think twice about it. And then just to have Willie, and, Willie Mays being 87 years old, and, I mean, his health seems okay aside from his eyesight, but just having him get up there and talk about how it's time to put Barry in the Hall of Fame, and, the writers need to get over themselves, basically. It was just listening to his stories. I cried when Willie was talking, and part of it is knowing that might be the last time we have. I'm almost going to cry now. It was the last time we heard an extended speech from Willie. You said it before the show. Usually it's a soundbite here and a soundbite there, but like, he talked for like, I don't know. It could have been 20 minutes. I really don't know. I didn't care. The man could have talked for 3 hours, and I would have sat there and listened. And to me, Willie was the highlight of the ceremony.
Oh, God, yeah. Willie was absolutely the highlight of the ceremony. And when I was watching it, I didn't watch it live. I watched it last night. But they give him the microphone, and he was kind of confused at first. And he's like, usually I don't like talking during these things, but I need to talk about this. And then he's like, where's the podium? Where's the podium? And like you said, his eyesight isn't very good. And so when people lean in to shake his hand, you can tell because his head is like looking different directions. He's not making eye contact with these people because he doesn't see them. And they have to come in and say, hey, it's Dusty, it's whoever, and kind of grab for his hand and shake his hand, that kind of thing. So he needed some guidance to the podium, and Dusty came in and helped and all that. But he gets to the podium, and, I haven't heard him speak at that length in years, and part of me was a little nervous when I started watching it, going, God, is this going to be a garbage fire here? Because I don't know what's going to happen here. Is he going to just like not remember shit? No, he was fine. He was sharp as a tack. He said Bobby instead of Barry one time, but other than that, he was recalling dates and details and all sorts of anecdotes, and it was funny as hell. And he brought up the whole thing, or Dusty brought up the whole thing about Pat, but he brought up, being a kid and him being better than him and challenging him in home run contests and just the whole thing. It was so funny. He was so sincere, and it was great. He definitely has some of the cockiness that his nephew has. He always has.
Yes.
But he also gave up the fact that he's not the smartest guy in the world and that education is the most important thing. And he was really the influence in getting Barry, who, ironically, and I had forgotten about this over the years, the Giants had signed him out of high school. And he basically was like, no, you need to go to school. And so he went to ASU and, of course, was drafted by the Pirates, and the rest is history. But I do wonder, what would have happened if the Giants had signed him and maybe he played with them for, obviously, I don't think anything would have turned out better than how it did. There's no way, because if he signs with the Giants, maybe his career isn't as good because he flames out too early because he doesn't have the maturity and building up the skills. Maybe he gets traded after he's been a Giant for 5, 6, 7 years. Maybe he elects free agency. There's a billion ways it could have gone. So it could not have gone better for the Giants. But it is really interesting to think that the Giants did draft him out of high school. And then it took many, many years later, 11 years later, before the Giants actually got him.
Yeah, Barry said it in his speech. He thinks that taking Willie's advice and going to school was the best thing that happened to him because imagine the pressure he would have felt to immediately follow in Willie and Bobby's footsteps. That it's good that he went to Pittsburgh and established himself. And it sounded like it's good that he played under Jimmy Leland for all those years because it seemed like he was a really good teacher for the young kids. And Leland, we've seen it. Leland won a World Series in Miami. What was that? 97. Granted, that was a very veteran club. But Leland is one of the better managers that I remember from when I was growing up. Leland was one of the big names. The Pirates were always in the playoffs in the early 90s, those epic battles with the Braves. And it's funny because Bonds wasn't even good in the playoffs until he came to San Francisco. Yeah. He was always considered, he chokes and this and that. But it was like the Mays, I always will. The Mays stories were just something else. Barry's hit 2 home runs one game and Mays was there. And then the next day he called up Mays. He's like, why aren't you coming to my game today? I hit 2 home runs when you were here yesterday. And he's like, you're fine, kid. You're fine. Yeah. It's just the mutual respect is amazing. And I don't feel like they glossed over the PED stuff. I kind of felt like it hung there a little bit, and they sort of acknowledged it. Barry seemed to acknowledge it himself when he said a couple times, things that we went through off the field and
low times, right? All those things.
Right. And I was very, appreciative that they didn't just fully ignore it. But, as a Giants fan, I couldn't have imagined anything better than what they had. It was fantastic.
Yeah, they did address the PEDs in a roundabout way, talking about him being in the Hall of Fame, needing to be in the Hall of Fame, including Willie Mays. He just called it out. He just he needs to be in the Hall of Fame, guys. Kirk Reeder said it. He's like, I was here for the Wall of Fame. I'm here for this, and hopefully in the future with something with the letters HOF in it, and the crowd erupted on that. So it's all there. He had a lot of big guys show up on the video board. You mentioned Tom Brady. You had Steph Curry. You had Steve Kerr, Joe Montana, Ronnie Lott, Pudge Rodriguez, which I thought was interesting. That was out of nowhere.
I have to wonder if that was a product of Dereck being on
I was
Giants.
wondering the same exact thing because I didn't really think they had any kind of connection other than they played against each other and they respected each other. We're on all-star teams together, and the Marlins beat the Bonds-led Giants in 2003, when he personally tagged out JT Snow at home plate to end the series. All these different, interactions they've had, great, but so many other players. I do wonder if it is that connection with his son that brought Pudge into that little video tribute. But regardless, it was really cool to see. And one thing I wanted to mention is everyone knows Bonds' stats and how epically amazing they are. And we are in still this era of some of the old school writers, many of the old school writers, just refusing to vote for a guy who took steroids. And I think at this day and age, and I'll admit, I was blinded as a Giants fan in my younger days when the whispers of PEDs came out in the early 2000s and in the mid 2000s. I kind of was like, no, you can't. PEDs doesn't help you with hand-eye coordination. It doesn't help you with this. Doesn't help you with that. Well, obviously, I've matured since then and put away my bias, and we all know that Barry definitely did something. It's, again, getting back into that question of how many Hall of Famers, Jeff Bagwell and others did PEDs that are in the Hall of Fame, and how can you just draw a line? It's really hard for me to put myself in a writer's shoes where you could say, I know for a fact this guy did PED, so I can't vote for him just on principle, versus I'm not sure, but I'm still going to vote for this guy. It's a huge gray area, and we all know there are Hall of Famers that took PEDs, and nothing's ever been proven for Barry, just like nothing was ever proven for Jeff Bagwell or other guys that have made it. But, guys like McGuire and Sosa are out. Rafael Palmeiro's out. All these guys that just aren't going to be voted in because of these riders. Now, what, Barry has like 3 years or 2 years left of eligibility, I believe?
Might
3
be
years,
4.
yeah.
I don't know. We discussed this in January.
Yeah, because his last year was 2007, so his first year of eligibility was 2012. So 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. It might be 3, maybe 4 at the most.
Jeez, yeah.
So, and every year, him and Roger Clemens, they kind of creep up. But the trajectory shows that he's probably not going to make it, to be honest, in the next 3 years, unless it's like his last year, and then finally you have this wave of water riders that go, okay, fine. But after that, they have the Veterans Committee, correct?
Yeah.
That could vote him in. And that would be interesting because the veterans, there are so many old veterans that would not vote him in right now. But I wonder if eventually that would happen, is you get the younger veterans, quote unquote, especially the ones who played in the era of PEDs or took PEDs themselves, might actually, give him a vote. But, that's for down the line. But I tell you, besides his home run record, which we can all debate, because in reality, he only hit 7 more than Hank Aaron. Did the PEDs give him that 7 and a lot more? I have to say yes. I don't think there's any doubt about that. So without steroids, he would not be the home run king today. But you look at all these other stats, and I'm a bit of an OCD person for like milestones and even numbers, and he's so short on so many of these numbers, right? Like he has 9,847 at-bats. One more season, he would have had 10,000. He had 2,935 hits. So close to 3,000. That one is so painful, right? 1,996 RBI. He just needed 4 more RBI. It's numbers like that just drive me crazy. It wouldn't have increased his Hall of Fame chances at all, but it's just like, oh man, one more season, he probably would have eclipsed all of these numbers and made them even. Especially the 3,000 hit club is the big one, I think.
Yeah, that's the one that gets me all the time. I look at that number and I'm like, so close. If somebody like Tampa had signed him in 2008, they might have won the World Series against Philly.
Oh, man, look, his last year, 2007, he had 28 home runs. What the hell? And even the Giants at that point just said, we can't re-sign this guy because of the stigma attached to him. And it's funny how you look back, and now he's on the Wall of Fame, and now he has his number retired. And he had that little tiny plaque for 762 in center field, which was, like no one could see unless you were a fan out in the bleachers. And it's funny how the Giants over the years are like, okay, yeah, we're just going to sweep this under the rug for the next 5, 6, 7 years, and then slowly have been warming up to him. And I wonder, I mean, you're not going to change history now because the Giants won 3 World Series. And I think that course was fantastic. And if you had Barry signed in 2008 and maybe even 2009, probably 2010 and 2012 and 2014 don't happen because it would have altered the course of history. You would have had the butterfly effect. And there's no way the Giants would have won those World Series. Maybe 1, but not 3. I really firmly believe that. So I'm glad the Giants did what they did. But at the time, I was pining for them to re-sign Barry. I mean, 26 home runs. He still hit, 276? He was clearly on the top of his game. His on-base percentage was 480 that year. 480.
That's ridiculous.
That's stupid. You see people today, and they're like, oh, he has an on-base percentage of 340. That's excellent. It's like, he was still a feared hitter at that time. There's no way in 2008 he was going to hit just 5 home runs and hit 200. No way. I mean, he was going to hit 20-plus home runs, still hit 260, 270, and be a very, good player for the Giants. But, they had to do what they had to do, and it really did cut into some of those numbers that we just mentioned. He would have been able to eclipse. And I tell you, seeing him put on that Giants jersey and semi-sprint out to left field.
Yeah.
Man, he is in good shape still. And everyone knows, he's pretty much off the steroids. He's not as big as he used to be. But he cycles. He does a lot of yoga. He does a lot of physical activity these days. He keeps really, really good care of himself. And there's the little doubt in my mind. He could hit 5 to 10 home runs a year in a major league uniform today.
Yeah, I shared there was the tweet from that night's starting pitcher, Trevor Williams of the Pirates.
Oh, that was hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah, how I'm gonna riff off the top. I'm not gonna find it in time. But how he said, he can't wait to be there for the ceremony, but he's still a little scared that Bonds is gonna sign a one-day contract and be in the lineup. There it is. I'm really excited to watch Barry Bonds get his number retired by the Giants on Saturday. I'm also slightly terrified that he will sign a one-day contract and be in the lineup.
I know.
And, he could have. The way he went out there, he looked like he could have. And I was glad the Giants let him do it. When I saw him jog out there, I immediately turned to the wife and I said, Barry asked them if he can do that. They did not encourage him to do that. He said to them, can I run out there one more time? And he admitted so when he met the press gaggle afterwards. And I think even on the television broadcast, because he wanted that feeling one more time. And I would have loved to have seen him throw a couple balls with Duggar, and it was nice to see Hansen. And there's the irony of it. The Giants have not found an everyday left fielder since Barry left. And the guy who happened to be starting that night in left field for the Giants, Alan Hansen, also started his career in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he did. That's right. And no one's hit 28 home runs for the Giants since him in 2007.
Wow, really?
Like, what's up with that, dude?
Wow. God, how the hell did they win 3 titles? Wow.
Yeah. I think Buster hit 25 or 26 that one year, his MVP year.
12, yeah, absolutely. Pitching, defense, and timely hitting. I mean, we are so fortunate. My goodness.
Yeah, in 2008, we need a player who can hit at least 20 home runs a year in this pitcher-friendly AT&T Park. Who could we sign that has done that recently? I mean, it's just... That's all right. I'm on the Barry soapbox. Sorry, everyone. I know not everyone's on the Barry soapbox, but I say let bygones be bygones. And, he definitely cheated the game. Don't get me wrong. But I also think he was a product of the system, and he was a product of the environment, and he did what a lot of other players are doing. I'm not saying he was right, and he shouldn't be fully exonerated, but I think that he's just vilified more so than he should be. That's it. That's just the way I see it.
One last thought on the vilification is part of it is his relationship with the writers, so they were not
huge,
want to write good things. And I read an interesting story the other day about how at the '94 All-Star game, I believe it was, he was talking to Tony Gwynn, and Tony was talking about, he's like, I don't understand how you can do all this, Tony. You're great with the media. You're willing to do this. You're willing to do that. And Tony's like, just follow me around for a day, see how I take care of it, because you could do it too, Barry. And then they came out of the All-Star break, and Barry tried to be that guy. He tried to have more press conferences, have more media availability, and his numbers went in the tank. And he, being a baseball player is superstitious in that respect. And he saw Tony again when the Giants played the Padres. He's like, Tony, I just can't do it. I can't do it like you do. It changes my game. And, you kind of got to respect that in a sense. He knew what worked for him. And these writers still have a stick up their ass because he wasn't always the friendliest of guys to them. I thought it was funny. Barry mentioned, he's like, I used to wake up early and I do, all this, Dusty, I think, was the one who said it, that Barry would wake up early in the morning, he'd do all this stuff, and then he'd come to the ballpark and he'd take a nap when everybody else was doing the stuff he already had done 3 or 4 hours earlier. Mm-hmm. And it caused people to think that he was just this selfish brat. But when you are a world-class athlete and are trying to take care of yourself and keep your craft as perfect as you can, it's hard to tell a guy what to do because nobody else is in that guy's shoes. And, that's part of why he gets vilified, and is because the press hated him. But I'm with you. Bygones be bygones. He hasn't played in 11 years. It's time to put Barry in the Hall. I've even changed my Twitter handle to Bonds for Hall of Fame. It's time to put him in. And Saturday night was a good closure for Giants fans. The next thing is the statue. Willie commented on the statue, and you could see Larry Bear get visibly uncomfortable.
Yes. And he's like, not across the bridge.
Right.
That was awesome.
That was, it's good that we can laugh and smile about it now. And it's nice that the memories are staying the good memories, and all that other stuff is not what is at the forefront of our minds anymore. And I thought the Giants did a tremendous job. I thought Barry did a tremendous job, and I thought everything went really, really well. It was a really nice ceremony. It set the tone really well. It's a shame that the Giants didn't follow through with that, and we should probably get into that now. But it really set the table for good feelings all around, and then the Giants went out and laid an egg.
Yeah, just real quick, I will add the Willie Mays part of the ceremony, his speech at the end of the podcast. So if you missed it, you can listen to it at the end of the podcast. Just real quick to wrap this up, we all know his kind of career numbers, which is 7 years with the Pirates, 15 years with the Giants. But when you look at just the Giants totals, I mean, God, aside the home runs, whatever, batting average, 312 with the Giants. On-base percentage, 477 with the Giants. Slugging, 666. His OPS was 1,143. What? I mean, he never had a year below 1,000 in his OPS except for 2006. It was 999.
I think 06 was the year he was injured, and he only played in September.
No, that was 2005.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, and he still had an OPS of 1,071. He only had 42 ABs, 52 plate appearances that year. He still hit 5 home runs. Now, 2006, he still hit 26 home runs, still hit 270, but his OPS was only 999, even though his on-base percentage was 4. Yeah, his on-base percentage was 454. Even his last year, like we already mentioned, 28 home runs, hit 276. His OBP was 480. 480. He was on base 48% of the time, and then his OPS was 1045. I mean, and his OPS plus was 169. His career OPS with the Giants was 199. And this is just stratospheric numbers. You can't. Yes, steroids helped him. I get it, people. But come on. I mean, he still would have had most of these numbers without it. Unfortunately, he did make a bad choice, and it is haunting him till this day. So that's the way it goes. All right, so yeah, you just mentioned it. They went out and laid an egg that game, which was game 3 of the series. They had a 4-game series with the Pirates since we last recorded. They did split with them, so they are still 1 game under 500 at 59-60. They are 6 games back of Arizona in 4th place, also 7 games back for the final wild card spot. They're just, again, the sense of urgency is now. They're just not playing like it. Let's go ahead and talk about this. Game 1, they did lose 10-5. The big glaring, hole in that game was the 4 unearned runs because of the Joe Panic throw, and they only trailed 3-2 going into the 7th. That was a game that I'm not going to say they should have had because they had a nice little 9th inning rally there to kind of cut it close, but it was frustrating to just open up and lay an egg like that. But I don't know if you have any comments about that specific game other than the Joe Panic error, which it happens. They had I think they had 3 or 4 errors that game total too.
They did, and I think that inning was like a panic error and maybe a Longo error as well. I think there was like back-to-back errors.
Yeah, and he's got 14 errors this year, by the way, Longo. He even admitted in an interview that his defense has stunk this year.
And people were still screaming about the bullpen, and it's like, and Melanson happened to be the pitcher. That was the shame of it. Melanson pitched well. And made
it was
his
all
pitches.
unearned runs. It was 4 unearned runs, all against Melanson. So I saw that too. People were like crucifying Melanson. It was like, do you know this game? Do you understand this game? He had 0 unearned runs. He did his job.
Yeah. He did. He made his pitches. It wasn't like the ball was drifting out over the plate. They weren't hitting the ball hard off him. Actually, the harder hit balls were the ones being caught. And there was like one Ducks North that went down the left field line right over to the guys. There was another one, I think, that fell into no man's land by center. My one takeaway from that game was I miss the old Joe Panic. Joe Panic is not the same.
No, he's not. Since he's
isn't.
come back from his injury, he obviously started the season out with a bang with 3 home runs. He was leading the NL in home runs at the time, which we knew was a short-lived proposition. But I don't know what's going on with Joe Panic, but he is not the Joe Panic of old right now. And he is not too old or anything like that, so he's a very young guy. So I don't know if an injury is lingering or he's just on the decline, which happens to some people, or this is just who we have. But I expected much more out of Joe Panic this year.
Yeah, he's making himself expendable, which is a shame.
Mm-hmm. Like the guy.
But Yeah, but it was nice. They bounced back that Friday. They won, what was it, 13-10?
13-10, yeah.
Buster Posey became the first San Francisco Giants player in the San Francisco era to get a hit in each of the first 4 innings of a game. The man was 4 for 4 before the 4th inning was over, which was ridiculous.
Yeah,
and they were all singles. We know Posey does not have the power right now, but as we'll get to later, his numbers are just absolutely great lately. And it was nice to see the Giants take advantage of opportunities. You know, that was the kind of game that we always wished that we would see from them. I was just looking at it. They walked 11 times on that Friday night game. You know, I can't see another game all season long. I'm scrolling through it. That is the most walks they had in any game all season. It was the only time they've had double-digit walks in a game all season. And I know that partly is a product of the fact that the Pirates were basically throwing out scrubs at that point. But you know, it was good. It was a complete offensive effort. It was the kind of offensive effort that we're always looking for when they're constantly getting guys at third base and not driving them in. They were not doing that. They were setting the table and driving the runners in. Yeah. You know, Friday was it was kind of like, where's this team been all year? And it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to watch that game and just enjoy the 16-hit, 13-run performance.
That was a lot of fun. You know, it's like I kept tuning in and out of the game, and it was, 4-1, 5-1. At one point, finally, it was 11-3, and I was like, "All right, they got this game in the bag." And then suddenly, it was 11-7 because of that grand slam that was given up by Pierce Johnson. And then it was 12-7 and 12-8, and then finally, the final score was 13-10. So the Giants needed almost every run that they had, and it was a combination of great hitting and poor bullpen, but it was a slugfest. It was a football score. But the Giants pulled it out, which was great. So the first 2 games, 26 plus 15, so it featured 41 runs the first 2 games. And then you had Game 3, in which, of course, after the bond ceremony, they just came out flat. They were just shut out 4-0. Ty Block gave up that 3-run bomb, and there was just no offense. So, I mean, it was just a dead performance by them, and suddenly the Giants are down 2-1 in the series. The only bright note of the game I just wanted to point out was they just called up Casey Kelly. He was kind of a long-time minor league veteran. He's had, obviously, some cups of coffee with other teams, with the Padres and others. But he came up and threw 5 shutout innings, and that's great. And I was like, well, who is this guy? Does he have any good stuff? How old is he? And I started doing the research, and it's like, no, he's got a career 5.91 ERA. That's after his start, or after his performance, too, by the way. In only 67 innings pitched. He originally was drafted by the Red Sox way back in 2007 or 8, so he's definitely a veteran. The Cubs, the Iowa Cubs, the AAA team for the Cubs, released him in July of 2017. He was signed by the Giants as a free agent, so he's bounced up and down between the Salem Kaiser Volcanoes and the Sacramento River Cats ever since, and of course he was pulled up, at least for this series right now, going forward. But so, and he also sports, I don't have it in front of me, but it was like a 4.15 or 4.25 career minor league ERA, and he has 900 innings pitched in the minor leagues. So I don't think he's a guy that we need to go, hey, maybe he's the next. No, he's not going to be. No, I think he's just he's just a plug right now. That's all he is. He's just a finger in the dike. So
yeah, with that game specifically, though, after watching Block pitch and then watching Kelly pitch, it was like, well, why the hell didn't Kelly just start the game? But who's to say he would have pitched like he pitched, had he started the game? He shut the Pirates down. I think Diaz is the only guy that got hits off him. At least I remember Diaz their catcher got 2 hits.
Yeah, he had
off
2 hits. He had 2 hits in 5 innings. Yep.
Yeah, and the Giants didn't get a runner past second base that game, and the only one that was there was Longoria made it there in the 3rd inning, and that was it.
Yep.
So they deserve
a ho-hum, boring game.
Yeah, they deserved to lose. They got their ass kicked. They absolutely did.
And then the final game of the series yesterday, of course, Dereck Rodriguez came back out, and you and I are just totally on this guy. He has just been so amazing. He's a Rookie of the Year candidate. And just every time he comes out, I just feel like he's this fragile baby that, he's going to be exposed at some point, that they're going to figure him out, and that he's just going to have this epically horrible start. And he goes out and he throws another 7 shutout innings, 2 hits. And both hits were doubles in the same inning in the second. So that contributed to the run. Sorry, I just said shutout. I didn't mean shutout. He allowed 1 run through 7 innings, but only 2 hits. And it was 2 doubles in the second, and that was it, and 1 walk. So, I mean, just an absolute dominant performance. He leaves the game leading 4-1. The Giants almost coughed it up. 2 runs in the 8th by Moranta, but they still won 4-3. So they ended up splitting the series. But again, We're talking about the sense of urgency the Giants need to play with. And you're playing at home right before you go on this 6-game roadie against the Dodgers for the first 3. I mean, they needed to take 3 out of 4, Eric. They needed to. They need every single game, and especially with the Diamondbacks and the Dodgers not performing well this weekend and the Rockies doing very well against the Dodgers. The Giants really basically didn't gain any ground. They were 6.5 back, now they're 6 back, so they didn't really change anything. If they had crept back to within 5 or 4, you could start maybe talking about things, but I just feel like they keep saying, oh, yeah, we need to play with sense of urgency. Oh, yeah, we need to play with a sense of urgency. They got 41 games left or so. That's it. To get 6 games and pass 3 teams. We already talked about it 4 days ago, Eric. You and I both agree that the season's over, pretty much. The players aren't going to say it. The coaches aren't going to say it. The staff isn't going to say it. It's pretty much over. I think it is going to take just a remarkable, tremendous run, which that's up to the players. And Bochy. I mean, that's just it. They cannot go through the next 41 games playing barely 500 ball or barely over 500 ball. That's not going to do it. They have to play 700 ball minimum. They have to win like 25 of those 41. That's the only mathematical way they're even going to have a close chance on this. And that's if all the other teams are playing just barely above 500. It's the only way. So the math is there, and it doesn't look good for the Giants. I just wish the Giants would act like the numbers dictate right now.
Well, they're a mediocre team who continues to stay a mediocre team, and there's like no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's just what they are. It's hard to...
It looks like a duck, it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, right?
Yeah, that's how I feel. It was a couple weeks ago that it just finally sunk in, and I'm the guy... If you've been listening to our podcast all season, I'm the guy on our season preview show who said, oh, yeah, his team's going to win 96 games and win the World Series. Well, aside from the fact that I was drinking that night, I really was banking on the fact that guys like McCutchen and Longoria were going to help carry them and that Duggar would come up and be a sensation. And Duggar has been absolutely fantastic.
Oh, he's
But, when you put the sum of the parts together, it's just a mediocre team, and there's just no getting around it. And I'd like to think, we'll get back to D-Rod in a minute, but I'd like to think that after this weekend, the Giants saw themselves for who they are. They're actually going on a 10-game road trip. It's 3 cities. It's L.A., Cincinnati, and then they go to New York for 4 against the Mets. But they're not time to sell, but it is time to see if maybe McCutchen can go help a contender. I had this feeling that they were kind of waiting until the end of the Pirates series to make an assessment on whether or not they were going to put McCutchen on waivers and see if he can go help another club. And I think it's time. I wouldn't be surprised if we hear in the next few days, maybe they're waiting for this Dodgers series. I mean, yes, let's get hyped. Tonight is a Madison Bumgarner, Clayton Kershaw matchup, and we all know how much fun those are.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like the season's not going to be decided. Even if they take 2 out of 3 from LA, there's a slim chance that they're going to be able to leapfrog 3 teams or 6 teams when it comes to the wild card race. So I think we're going to see them start to make some moves and start to make room for some young guys. I was talking about Mac might come up, but it looks like now that he is suffering from concussion symptoms again, and Mac Williamson's been shut down for the rest of the season. So, Shaw might be the only kid that they bring up to get a look at next to Duggar. Slater's been getting plenty of playing time at first base with Belt out. When Belt comes back, I hope Slater plays more left field. Again, Gorky's, I know, has had a good year. But if they can trade McCutchen, then that opens up right field to, give them some opportunities to see certain players.
Sure.
And like you said, walks like a duck, talks like a duck. This is just it's what they are. That's the 2018 team. And yes, I'm happy that they're not the 2017 team that won 64 games.
Oh, sure.
But, I mean, the Giants, they have 43 games left. I just did the math. And they won yesterday. So, in my mind, they have to kind of go 44-0 to feel like they're going to do anything. And they're not going to do that. It's just
44-0. Wow, that would be amazing. That would set all sorts of records.
And I'm pretty sure they'd win the division if they did that.
Pretty sure they would win the division, yeah. What's really remarkable, you bring up last year, and clearly they're much better than last year. 64 wins, they're at 59 right now. Yep. They got 5 more wins to go to match last year. Wow.
And should do it on this road trip. I mean, with 3 against Cincinnati and 4 against the Mets, those are, the Giants are mediocre.
But
those are worse.
I know. Their road record, as we know, just is one of the worst in the National League. And so you got a 10-game road trip. So if they go 5-5, that'd be great. That's a great road trip. It's not going to increase their postseason probabilities at all. It's actually going to lessen it, to be honest. That's the whole problem, is that's a quarter of the games they have left in the season, right? 41 games left or so. 43. Sorry, I guess it's 43 games. 43 games left in the season. So you have 10 games coming up on the road. That's a quarter of the season left. You got to win 7 of them. You have to, just to even have its chance. But again, you and I know the season's over, so we'll just wait to see if anything epic happens, like some Oakland A's 2002 20-game win streak happens or some crazy shit like that. But other than that happening, it looks like the Giants are going to be done. I just hope that they end with, at least a 500 record would be nice, and just protect the guys for next year. We'll see what happens. So let's see. Before we wrap up here, we'll talk about injuries and who's hot and who's not. But before then, I think it's next weekend is the Players' Weekend.
It's when they come home from this road trip.
Yeah, so
it's August 24th, 25th, and 26th against Texas.
So it's the Players' Weekend, and that's 3 days basically in which the Major League Baseball players get to wear jerseys of all crazy colors and whatever. I don't really like the whole color scheme and all that, but they get to wear kind of their nicknames or whatever nickname they choose on the backs of their jerseys. And 2 notable ones, I think, for the Giants. Of course, MadBum is MadBum, Buster is Buster, those kinds of things. But Hunter Pence this year is going with underpants. And you were saying before the game that you thought it was kind of like a mispronunciation of his name, which actually still could tie in. He didn't mention that. But Hunter Pence, Underpants, is kind of a close resemblance. But he actually does love Captain Underpants, as does so my 8-year-old son. So when I told him that, he thought it was the greatest thing in the world, because I also showed him streaming one day, Hunter Pence streaming from his hotel room about a month ago, and I typed in a statement about, this game looks like A, B, and C, and he was like, oh, yeah, I agree with you. I think this game does look like that. And when my son saw a Major League Baseball player call out my name and answer, he just lost his shit. It was so awesome to see. And so when I told him that he's choosing Underpants for his Players' Weekend name, he just is like, Hunter Pence is now suddenly his favorite player, which is sad because he's no longer going to be a Giant next year. So
right. It's heartbreaking.
It's a little late for my 8-year-old. He was 2 when the Giants signed Hunter Pence or traded for him, so it's not like he could have really followed his career up. But unfortunately, his favorite player now is no longer going to be with the Giants next year. But anyway, hilarious nickname. And then, of course, Derek Holland, famously earlier this year, there was a MLB graphic. I forget which station it was. I think it was a national station.
It was ESPN. I was watching the game at the time, yeah.
Oh, you were? I just saw the screenshot of it, but yeah, they put up his name with the stats, and it said Dereck last name. So clearly someone forgot to put in Holland under the last name tab. So he took that and ran with it. Of course, we all think Dereck Holland is the funniest guy in the world. He's hilarious. In fact, after his start over the weekend, he wore a T-shirt in the post-game interview that said, "I pooped today," which was fantastic. He's just a free spirit. He's a funny guy, and he's going to wear last name on his jersey. So I thought those were 2 just fantastic choices by the Giants, and we'll see what happens. Now, they're going to be at home, so clearly these are off-colored jerseys, which we've seen. So they will have these names on their home jerseys, which is unusual, of course, for the Giants.
Yeah, that's true, too.
Yeah,
the Giants and the Yankees are the only 2 teams that don't wear their names on their home jerseys.
Exactly. So I don't know if the Yankees are home during the weekend. I haven't looked into that, but the Giants, I know last year were on the road for this, so this year they're at home. So it's going to be interesting to see, some off-colored jerseys with their names. They haven't done that since '99 at Candlestick when they had that.
Here's a couple more names that stuck out to me on this one. Brandon Belt is going with Bob, and I've been wondering, is that for Base on Balls?
Oh, I thought I'd saw. I know obviously he's used B-Craw in the past, but I thought it was something
Belt.
Belt. Oh, Belt. Sorry, not Crawford. Okay, Belt. Going with Bob? Base on Balls?
Bob. B-O-B. I wonder if it's based on balls. Craw is DJ BC Raw.
That's what it was, right?
Yeah. Because he's the DJ in the clubhouse.
Yeah, he's the DJ in the clubhouse, and he's going with B-Craw, BC Raw, exactly.
Yeah, okay. And I also think it's funny that I don't know where this comes from, but Sam Dyson's is psst. Okay. Literally spelled out P-S-S-S-T. That's okay. Sam Dyson's. I don't know why. Ray Blackout, that's pretty good.
Blackout, mm-hmm.
But certainly, like you mentioned, Buster's Buster. Hundley's going with Hundo. Strickland is Strick. And the other interesting note, and this is funny, is last year Austin Slater was going to be AC. He had AC for the back of his jersey, and he got clearance through NBC to do that. Well, he found out that apparently the permission from NBC didn't roll over year to year. So he couldn't put AC Slater, Bayside, Saved by the Bell. If you're of a certain age, you totally know it. Mm-hmm. So Slater's going with Mayer instead because he didn't realize that the AC had run out on him.
Oh, how funny. No,
yeah, right? Yeah, I thought that was fun. Because Slater was going to be wearing it, but then he got injured right before the Players' Weekend, and he didn't get the chance to wear the AC jersey last year.
Gotcha. So I think we're going to be, we're recording next Monday, so we'll talk about it again, but that'll be in 2 weeks. It'll be fun to see how they're doing. After this road trip, maybe they'll be so far out of the playoffs at that point, we'll see a bunch of minor leaguers with names with it. We couldn't even conceive of at the time, but... All right, so injuries, we covered, obviously, the major ones that happened in the last couple of weeks 4 days ago, but we do have Brandon Belt playing in a rehab game in Reno tonight, and he's supposed to join the club tomorrow in L.A., so... here's a guy again we talked about last time. He was on track to have a career year, and it just every single thing seems to be sidelining him from, concussions to the appendicitis to his son being delivered to. I mean, it's one thing after another for this guy. I love the guy. He's just this dopey, funny, baseball playing, lanky guy, and it's frustrating because I think. He's healthy the whole year. The Giants are at least 2 to 3 games better, if not more. They're instead of 6 games back, they're 3 games back. So I really do think this guy makes that kind of difference with this team. And it's unfortunate, just with the combination of injuries to MadBum and Cueto and Longoria and everything like that. If you had these guys having pretty normal years, or at least injury-free years, the Giants are right in this race, and that's why it's so frustrating this year. 6 games isn't a whole lot. It is a lot with 43 left, but overall, if they had trimmed it to 2 at this point or 1 because of those injuries didn't happen, we'd be talking a completely different story right now.
Yeah, I just miss having Belt around. He's part of the team. He's one of the guys. He's one of the core guys. So it's like getting the band back together. And I'm sure Brandon Crawford. I can't say that this is true, but you have to wonder if Crawford, who's been struggling lately, if when he has his running buddy with him, if he does better. I mean, who knows what translates to production on the field? Yeah. It'll just be nice to see Belt back in the everyday lineup.
All right, so who's hot and who's not? We already mentioned him, but Dereck Rodriguez, still hot. He's obviously down to a 2.25 ERA for the season. He's 6-1, clearly a Rookie of the Year candidate. And I think you had some more stats post All-Star break on how he's been doing.
Yeah, he's been phenomenal since the All-Star break. He has 5 starts since the All-Star break, 33 1/3 innings pitched, the 3rd most innings pitched since the All-Star break.
Wow.
He's given up 16 hits in the 33 1/3. That's it. That's fewer hits than Max Scherzer, who's given up 22 in 34 innings. Dereck Rodriguez's WHIP is .66.
Oh,
his average
God.
His average against 142. And he's not doing it with the strikeouts because he's only struck out 28 guys over those 5 starts, as opposed to like a Scherzer who struck out 45 guys over his 5 starts since the All-Star break. But he's only given up 5 runs, all earned in those 5 starts. He's only allowed 1 bomb. He doesn't walk many. He's walked 6 guys over that total. And I was just looking at some of his stats. You mentioned somewhere else that I believe it was 9-3 in his starts. Mm-hmm. You talk about a guy, it's funny. You said when he goes out there, you're kind of worried he's going to be exposed. I've gotten to the point where Dereck Rodriguez is appointment viewing, and I don't worry about the Giants. It's weird to compare him to this guy, but it's almost like when Timmy used to take the mound in 09, 10, and 11. There was just that
Yeah.
rhythm that you just
Lincecum
knew
Day.
he was going to
Yeah.
cut right, and you just knew he'd cut through the lineup. And he's been doing that. You know, he's consistently, his last 3 starts, he's completed 7 innings. He'd only done that once in his previous 9 starts. You know, since he gave up 5 runs in 2 2/3 against the Nationals, he hasn't given up more than 3 runs in a game.
Right.
His ERA has dropped since that start against the Nationals from 5.25 all the way down to 2.25, which I believe is the 3rd best in baseball, which is phenomenal to think about. And he has put himself squarely in the middle of the NL Rookie of the Year conversation. The only problem with that is there's a 19-year-old, Juan Soto, playing for the Washington Nationals, doing things no 19-year-old should be doing. He has more home runs this year, Juan Soto, than Chris Bryant. He's got a higher slugging percentage than Aaron Judge or Manny Machado. He's got virtually the same on-base percentage as Joey Votto. I mean, he's like the greatest teenager ever, so it's hard not to give the man his props. His OPS is .975. The record for a teenager is .921 by Mel Ott in 1928.
That's just incredible.
Right? His OBP is .423 right now. Again, Mel Ott as a teenager, .397. His
my
OPS
God.
plus is .157. Mel Ott, .139, 1928. I mean, these are all just unbelievable jump-off-the-page type stats. And I watched Soto this weekend, and he didn't have a particularly great weekend against the Cubs. But it's just amazing to think what he can do. The guy hits the ball to left field, and he hits left-handers.
Yeah.
He's got a .371 batting average against left-handers. He's a left-handed hitter. It shouldn't be that easy. The next closest hitter to have he's got .694 slugging percentage against lefties. Christian Yelich is the next closest left-handed batter at .575. That's how good he's been. So, you know, it's going to be tough for Dereck Rodriguez unless Soto just absolutely hits a wall or Dereck falls off the face of the earth. It's going to be tough for him to garner those. But he's squarely put himself in the conversation. And the one other thing with him that's been noted, Baggerly noted it in his athletic piece, and I retweeted and I even checked it today. You can go do it right now, Chad, and our listeners can too. If you Google Dereck Rodriguez, the image that comes up is his dad.
All right, I'm doing it right now.
Yeah, it's not him.
Rodriguez. Let's see here.
It's
Image
not him.
search.
You don't even have to.
I'm getting both.
Yeah, I was gonna say you don't even have to image search. If you know, like when you do a normal Google search and the right, there's like a box with like a picture.
Oh, yep. Okay, so the normal
pictures.
search, the first image is Pudge. Yep.
Yes.
There are a lot of smaller thumbnails of Dereck, but the first big image is Pudge. You're right. How funny.
And he said he's getting texts about it from friends.
I love it.
When are they gonna finally figure it out? You know, and it's just great.
Come on, Google.
You know, I saw somebody say it, that finding Dereck Rodriguez may be the best thing that happened to the Giants since Bum walked out of the bullpen in 2014 in Kansas City.
Yeah.
And while that is extreme hyperbole, it's not far from the truth. I mean, nobody expected this. And it's giving the Giants a chance to, you know, give Cueto time, to give Samardzija time.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just not enough superlatives to say about Dereck Rodriguez. The guy has just been lights out. He is averaging, you know, I mean, I just can't get over this. His last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 starts have all been 6 innings or more. 7, 8, 9. Sorry, his last 9 starts have all been 6 innings or more. I got thrown off by the 3 innings he threw against the Cubs in that extra inning game, which, by the way, saved the Giants' ass in that extra inning game.
Yes.
You know, he goes out there and he does it, and he seems to enjoy what he's doing. And this is a guy who was drafted by the Twins as an outfielder.
Yep.
You know, so he's only been pitching for a few years. So there's just not enough good things to say about him. I hope he finishes second in the NL Rookie of the Year voting because he is absolutely the Giants' best rookie and maybe the Giants' best rookie that I've seen since the MadBum Buster Posey days.
I was going to say since MadBum and Buster. I mean, you know, the Giants have had flashes in the pan of young pitchers in the past, especially in the mid-2000s. They had quite a few of them. None of them have performed like Dereck has to this point. No one of them had, you know, not one of them had a 2.25 ERA for the season over 12 starts. But it's really interesting because both MadBum and Dereck Rodriguez each have had 12 starts this year. MadBum, the Giants. Now MadBum is a 2.69 or so ERA this year. 2.69 ERA this year. So MadBum's having a great year. There's no doubt about it. The Giants are only 5-7 in those 12 starts, which again, I know the offense is a huge portion of this. I'm just pointing it out. We missed Madison Bumgarner, and we kept saying, if he had been around, the Giants would be so much better, yada, 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 yada. Of course he makes the Giants better. We all know this. But ironically, they're 5-7 in his starts. They're 9-3, like you mentioned, in D-Rod starts. That's crazy to me. I mean, that's just crazy to me. They're so much better when Dereck Rodriguez starts than when Madison Bumgarner starts. Who would have thought that? And that's a decent sample size. That's not 3 starts, 5 starts, 6 starts. That's 12. That's 12 starts. So he's having a hell of a year this year. I do agree that I think he's only going to finish second at the best for Rookie of the Year. But regardless, it doesn't matter. It's because Soto's having just a historic year for a rookie, and he's 19 years old. They're calling him the next Ken Griffey Jr. And what are you going to do? And the guy is incredible. If the Giants could sign someone like that, I mean, take him in an instant. So,
yep.
So D-Rod is hot. Also, Buster, like we mentioned before, over his last 12 games, he's hitting .426. He's back up to .298 for his season average. So floating around his career .300 average. Again, no power whatsoever. No home runs in that stretch, like a couple doubles. So his hips or whatever is going on is still bothering him, and this is a long play here the Giants are playing. Joey Bart has just been tearing up the minors and the All-Star game that he performed in. I mean, he looks like he's trying to rush up to the major leagues, which, again, I think the soonest we could see him would be next September's call-ups, but probably 2 years from now. But, Buster's definitely catching next year. There's no question about it. As we get into 2020, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But right now, Buster at least is killing it in on-base percentage and average. And excuse me. And the aforementioned MadBum is 2-1 over his last 5 starts with a 2.10 ERA. So again, he's been settling down after a couple of shaky starts. He's kind of the MadBum of old, and I think he's only going to get better. He's still settling in, I would say, at this point. He's getting into mid-season form because he started so late after the injuries.
And like I said, we get that tasty matchup tonight. We get another Kershaw versus Bumgarner. And I saw the stats off the top of my head. I don't know them specifically. But the teams, they faced each other 10 times. Okay, there's some I remember. The teams have faced each other 10 times with those two guys starting against each other. They're split 5-5. But Bum personally is 4-3 in those, and Kershaw is 3-4. Mm-hmm. And Bum is 4-for-20 with 2 home runs against Kershaw.
That's crazy. I love that, 2 home runs. I mean, I know he's having a bad year offensively this year. He's hitting under 100 this year and no home runs. So we got to see one tonight. That's what I'm saying. Come on, man.
Why the hell not?
He hit his first home run of the year off of Kershaw. I mean, that would just be that should be that's the way it's supposed to be. So we'll see what happens.
Because I mean, at this point, my biggest rooting interest is now beat LA.
Yeah, we got to. All right, who's not? We got 3 of them on the board. We got Brandon Crawford. He only hit 167 over his last 9 games, and really, just overall, since that amazing 2 months after. Well, April was horrible. May and June were fantastic. July and August have been crap for him. He was an all-star. He was the starting shortstop for the National League. But really, overall, he's still hitting, 270-something. So he's still having a great year, don't get me wrong. Lots of power and all that. But just lately, the second half has just not been so good to Crawford. So he's one of those guys that needs to pick it up for this last 43-game stretch. He needs to have that month of May, that month of June, for the Giants to have any hope.
It looked like he was starting to turn the corner, because when you see him drive the ball to left field or hit the ball down the left field line, as he did, I want to say yesterday, you feel like he's going to come around, but until we see the results, it's a shame,
Yeah. You got Kutch. He did have his 5-for-5 game a week ago or so, but since then he's been 1-for-15, so a little bit cold. And then, of course, Suarez is 1-3 over his last 5 starts, including a 7.43 ERA, and he's given up 7 jacks in that time. So, I mean, he's a guy we really looked forward to, and he was very hot when he started with the Giants, including last year, but into this year. He might be one of those flashes in the pan, or at least at the very minimum require more seasoning in the minor leagues, because he's just not pulling his weight that we thought he was going to pull.
No, and like I said, with the way this season's going, it's a chance to let the young guys play. So I don't see for the rest of this year any problem with running him out there every 5 days right now.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you might as well learn. But apparently the book on him is out because, like you said, he's just homer happy.
Yeah, homer happy for sure. He's a left-handed Samardzija at this point. All right, so coming up, we got 3 in L.A. starting tonight with Kershaw and MadBum, so it's going to be real exciting, must-watch TV, and then 3 in Cincinnati before we record again next Monday, and then after that, of course, will be 4 in New York. So a big 10-game road trip coming up for the Giants, in which they need to do well. We'll cover it next week. But you can follow us collectively at TortureCast. You can follow us individually, myself at ChadK21, Eric at 2OutHits. That's with the number 2. You can like us on Facebook. Please do that. And, of course, our website is at torturecast.com. I actually was looking through a bunch of my old photos because I just went on the Maui trip, but also I delved into a bunch of my old Giants photos. I had a nice SLR even back in the day, 2004, 2005, the first Canon Rebel with a zoom lens. I have some really cool pictures of Barry Bonds back in the day in the mid-2000s. So I have a bunch of photos that I'm going to probably share on the website here today or tomorrow, just kind of reminiscing about Barry Bonds, and including I've been there for many of his home runs I didn't necessarily take pictures of, but I was there for, I think it was 2005 or so, when the Yankees visited AT&T Park, and it was Roger Clemens versus Barry Bonds. And so I have some great photos of number 22 on the mound and number 25 at home plate. So a lot of cool stuff, a lot of old photos of old players as well, not just Barry Bonds, that I think I'll share because they're pretty high quality from spring training and regular season games. So look forward to that. You got anything else, Eric?
No, nothing right now. But as the summer winds down, my brain might start working. I'm getting all new air conditioning this week, so Woohoo! You won't hear me complaining about the heat anymore, people. That's
good. Yeah, well, we still got the dog days of summer left, so yeah, you definitely need that cooling factor there in Georgia. All right, well, that will do it for episode 150. Nice even number, as opposed to Barry Bonds' career-ending numbers, which just, they burned me so bad. We'll see you next Monday for episode 151. Until then, for Eric, this is Chad signing off. We'll see you next time. A-boom. Hey, before you turn off the podcast, if you missed Willie Mays' and Barry Bonds' speech during his retirement ceremony, his jersey retirement ceremony on Saturday, I've included it in full, both Willie Mays and Barry Bonds. Coming up. Hope you enjoy.
Well, when Mr. Mays wants to speak, he gets to speak. So we're going to get Mr. Mays a microphone, and Willie, take it away.
Oh, boy. First of all, where's the podium at? Everybody having a day here, they didn't tell me about. I have to go to the podium because when I say something, I want everybody to hear it. Come, let's go over here. First of all, people think I don't want to talk when I sit over there and I keep my mouth closed. I don't like to do things like this. But the boy that is here today, he was like my little son. I had him since he was 5 years old. And his mother said to me, "You got this kid. Take him. You take care of him while we're here in San Francisco." I really didn't understand what he was talking about until I talked to Bobby, which is the husband. I said, "Bobby, Pat is bringing a son of yours by here, and she want me to take care of him." "Well, do that," he says. "Take care of that boy. I can't feed him all." So I said, okay. But what happened when people talk to me and they says, "Barry's the best ball player in the world." Yeah, let him have that honor. Let him have it. I taught him to be a proud man. I taught him daily. I taught him to get education. Bobby and I. But who cares how good he would be as he come out of Sarah? I didn't know that he would be as good as he is now. But when they said to me, he can hit a ball further than you, I said, I don't think so. I said, I don't think so. Bobby said, okay, we bet 10 every day. And this guy killed me. In spring training, every day we have to go to the ballpark. And Bobby says, you're gonna get a phone call today. I said, for what? The phone rang, bing. And he says, why you not here? This is Barry talking now. Why are you not here? I said, Barry, you hit 2 home runs yesterday. I gotta hit another one today. It was like he was my kid. He was like, I have a kid, but you can't put 2 of them together. That's one thing about life. You have to separate them. But I am so proud of the Giants and Peter McGowan. He called me on the phone. Okay. Go ahead, please. Peter should have that kind of fun. Yeah. Yeah. Peter didn't know anything about Barry at the time. I did. When Bobby and I were sat down at many times, and Bobby said, I do not have any money for this boy to go to school. Education is the most important thing, and baseball comes later. And he says, and the Giants at one time, they want to give him $100,000. I said, no, let him go to school. Make sure when he talks, he's talking for his own whole family. And he did. He did very well in Arizona school. And you can tell he's smarter than I'm not the smartest guy, but I could play. But we talk all the time. And I wish Peter would give him a statue across the little bridge over there. Because he's going to brag anyway. Let him have it. Let him have the honor. Because I may not be here forever. I might be gone. I want him to have kids, and his kids say, that's my daddy over there. And just have it. I know you guys don't like it, but I do. I guess I'm a kind of guy that I ate when I had to eat when I was young. I was a kid that played baseball daily. I had a father said, I'm going to teach you the game. And I know what Bobby and Barry had together. So when people talk about, who's the best ball player in the world? I don't care. I played my 21 years, 22 years, or whatever it may be. Give somebody honor that deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. Yeah. The Hall of Fame is a type of eternity that when you get there, you'll see, man, how did I get here? And I want him to have that honor be something happened to him. So on behalf of all the people in San Francisco and all over the country, vote this guy in. He is very, very important to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Woo! I am overwhelmed with emotions as the reality of this day sets in. This may come as a surprise to a lot of people, but as a child, I didn't even want to play baseball. I wanted to play all sports, basketball, football, riding my bike, all the things kids do. But once my mom signed me up and I committed to playing the farm league, I had that first taste of what would be my lifelong passion. The love of the game is what drove me every day. It was a passion that got me up day after day to either train, go to work, through injury, soreness, pure exhaustion, and also difficult times. I simply can't put into words the love I have for this game. And boy, I have a lot of people to thank. The single most important one, the one who got me started, was my mom. So many of us has experienced this as a kid or as a mom yourself. Our moms are the ones who shuttle us to practice every day, work in a snack bar, encourage us, and also keep us in line. And I was no different. I truly thank my mom for always being there for me. You were the glue that held our family together. And I love you, Mom. If I get through this one, woo, it almost doesn't seem fitting or really fair for me to even be here today without my dad. Bobby Lee Bonds, the person that molded my career and helped me live up to my potential. Dad, what can I say about the one person who knew how hard to push me and shape me into the player I became? As a kid, I was always wondering why my father didn't say positive things to me often. I always questioned why he was sympathetic with others while I was out there working my butt off. Every time I'd say something like, "Hey, Dad, I hit 2 home runs today," he would say, "Good, hit 2 more tomorrow." It wasn't until I was well in my career that I finally understood why my father treated me like that. Before he died, I had the opportunity to sit in bed with him and ask, "Why, Daddy?" Why were you so hard on me? Thank you. And he said to me, "Because I love you so much and I was so proud of you, I knew as long as you're going to chase getting my approval, nothing was going to stop you from being the best you can be." Dad, a big part of my heart is missing today here without you. Nikolai, Shikari, and Asia, I'm so proud to be your dad. You have given me a sense of purpose, a responsibility to something greater than me. You three are the reason why I work so hard. And seeing you now as adults, I'm so proud of who you have become. And I thank you for being my biggest fan. My baby brother, Bobby Jr., 6 years younger than me, couldn't be here today. I think if there's anyone in this family that has the next generation of kids to be Major League players, it's you. You coach them, mentor them, and if there is a plaque for Daddy of the Year Award, little brother, you'd win. Love you. Cheryl, our adopted sister. I can never thank Mom and Dad enough for bringing you in our lives. You're the best sister or brother could ever have. To my 14-month-old younger brother, Ricky, my main man. From the time that you and I could hold a bat in our hands, all we did was play strikeout against our garage, pretending to be every giant player on the team, even if it meant getting a spanking or grounded from Mom and Dad. I truly believe that's why Mom signed me up to play baseball, so Dad wouldn't hear from our neighbors that we were climbing over the fence retrieving our tennis balls out of their swimming pool. Love you, bro. To my grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins, thanks you for always supporting me. I was born in Riverside, California, but I was raised here. I don't even remember living there. I only remember visiting my grandparents for the holidays. But let me tell you something about my family. Ever since I was in high school, college, and even the majors, my entire family came to watch me play. And I mean my entire family. I know this may sound strange to you all, but no one knows why the Dodger-Giant rival meant so much to me. Having my entire family from LA meant that I had at least 30 or more fans out of 50,000 that weren't booing me at Dodger Stadium and watching us beat LA. I come from a family full of incredible baseball history, but I have always felt that this city is my home and where I belong. My dad was a baseball player, and I literally grew up in this organization. From a mischievous 5-year-old who couldn't get enough of his godfather's attention or time in his locker, to being a proud Sierra High Padre. Some of my old teammates and buddies are here today. To coming full circle, signing with the Giants and coming home, as I stand here now, I am amazed and humbled that I'm being recognized with these gentlemen, Willie Mays, McCovey, Marichal, Cepeda, and Gaylord Perry. You were my heroes growing up. Willie, say hey. It's no secret how special you are to me. And I'm thank you for your love, guidance, and support of me all these years. And while my dad isn't here to celebrate with me, it means the world to me that you are, and I love you. There's a lot of people who mentored me, rode me, disciplined me, but also gave me tough, unconditional love. One of those men was my ASU coach, Jim Brock. Coach Brock, you're no longer with us, but I'm so thankful for your influence in my life as a young man. Pittsburgh, where it started. I truly think it was meant for me to start my career in Pittsburgh. The worst thing you could do was be a hometown boy and fail. I had a lot of tradition here, and pressure to live up to. If it wasn't for the preparation I received in Pittsburgh, I don't think I would have been ready to be successful here at home. Having this gentleman right here as my first manager helped shape me into the player I became. I am so thankful for you, and I know you were the right and best manager I could have ever had starting out my career. I would be remiss not to mention and thank Bill Verdon, the best outfield coach, who told me, you don't have the best arm, nor the worst. But we're going to utilize your speed to make up for that. Thank you, Bill, for spending countless hours with me in the outfield. I got A-Go and gloves out of that, buddy. Thank you. During the 7 years I spent in Pittsburgh, I made some great friends over the years. And when I went back and played there, I saw them, and it was as time never stopped. Thank you, Pittsburgh. Thank you to the Black and Gold for all the wonderful years. John Yendo, what can I say about you? I can only say one thing, John. 762 would have never gotten here without you. Thank you. There's not many players who get the opportunity to play under amazing managers. I was lucky enough to only have 4 in my career: Leland, Dusty, Felipe, and Boch. I thank you for your leadership and time and spending time playing with you. Or, well, I mean for you. I'd also like to thank my former teammates who showed up here for me today. We played a lot of baseball games together, and we have some pretty great memories. And I truly appreciate each and every one of you. I know how blessed I was living out my dream each day. Don't get me wrong, every day definitely wasn't a walk in the ballpark. I can't hear myself. Don't get me wrong, every day definitely wasn't walking the ballpark. But my work was something that I love. Walking in here every day, being greeted with a smile, a hey Barry, or a high five, all that contributed to my success. As I stand here and look around, I see so many familiar faces, people who are a part of the San Francisco Giant team, not just those who stepped on this field. So many people were there from the beginning, and those who I've met over the years. People who experienced my highest highs and also my lows. These are the people who supported me along the way. Thank you for showing up for me. It means more than you'll ever know. This city is home. It is my family. It is my community. Through the Barry Bonds Family Foundation, I have been able to meet so many different people from so many parts of the Bay Area, all who have a story of their own, and many who have taught me what real strength, humility, and perseverance is. In this next chapter of my life, I've been able to focus more on work with my foundation and what that means to this city. You have given me so much, and I feel called to give back that love. I also want to thank the many individuals who are always behind the scenes, my business team and close friends, You have always looked out for my best interests, and I probably never said thank you enough, but I appreciate every one of you more than you will ever know. Your friendship and support never wavered through difficult times, and I share my success with you. It is an honor to be here alongside other longtime Giants who have had their numbers retired. For me to have played on the same field as them, wear the same uniform, and now have my number retired, joining Willie and these other great Giant legends, is extremely special. Number 25 has meant a lot to me throughout my career, and is even more special that I got to share that number with my dad. The Giants have always celebrated the great history of the organization, and I am thrilled to be a part of that history. You know, any player who wore the uniform, no matter how many games, we're all connected. We're all Giants. We're all part of the Giant family. We all love this game, but to be a part of a team, an organization that continues to celebrate their players long after they retired is special. So I end with this. Thank you, San Francisco. You are my family. And thank you for making all my dreams come true. Thank you.
Make some noise one more time for number 25, Barry Bonds.
A big thank you to everybody for listening to the Torture Cast, the podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants. Follow us on Twitter at TortureCast. You can also like us on Facebook or check out our blog at torturecast.com. I also want to say thank you to Ashcon and Bailey for letting us use their song Feeling Like a Giant for our intro. For Ben Lee and Chad King, my name is Willie Dills saying, we'll see you next time.